if the mayor tries to come in. Yeah, then I'll see him on the waiting room. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, it is 4:01. I have confirmation that we are streaming and we are recording, so you may begin the meeting whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. It's 4:01 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Our first order of business is approval of the agenda. Can we have a motion to approve?
Through you, Miss Deputy Mayor, thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Kaur, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the agenda for the February 25th, 2021 special meeting of council be adopted as circulated. If there is no discussion, I would call the vote. Start the vote with Councillor Hahn. Oh, I apologize. She's not in attendance as of yet. Councillor Hildebrandt?
Yes.
Councillor Kaur?
Yes.
Councillor Olson?
Yes.
Councillor Wink?
Yes.
And Madam Deputy Mayor Stewart?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion passes. And that brings you to your next matter of business, which is the disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof.
Does anyone have a pecuniary interest to declare? Seeing none, I ask you to make note.
Thank you. I have so. And that does bring us to the fourth item, which would be the review of the regional transit proposal. Would you like me to read the motion into the record?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that Council receive Report 2021-0044, Consideration for Service Provision arising from Region of Niagara's Transit Governance Report for information.
Thank you.
Would you like to have discussion or would you like me to call for a vote?
Discussion, please. Does anyone have comment or question? Oh, yes, Councillor Hildebrandt.
To you, to the Deputy Mayor. Today, is this the time to be discussing the comments and the information we have in that report and what our guidance is on it? Is that the proposal for today?
I would think so, but I will throw that to the CAO.
Yes, Council, we tried to create a forum where you could focus on the one topic, so hence the special meeting, and really the staff report doesn't exactly contain any concrete recommendations to you. We tried to just give as much background and context as possible, and then hoped you might have either commentary or debate amongst yourselves or questions for us. And to the extent that we can answer them, Ms. Van Ravensway being our expert, we will do so to the best of our ability. And then presumably the request from the region is ultimately some sort of feedback. We have examples from multiple other municipalities on their motions, and we've got a couple of clerks on the line, a CEO and a director, who can help you craft resolutions that fit wherever you land as a result of your discussions, questions, and debate. So that really, the end goal today is to create presumably a multi-part resolution, or multiple resolutions as you prefer, that sort of indicate your general thoughts on the overall presentation. Working back from that, if you wanted to start with specific questions, I know Vicky can answer probably most of them, and though she can't, possibly Teresa or I might have some insight to be able to offer. So now would be an entirely appropriate time, sir.
Okay.
Councillor Hildebrand?
For you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to give you my comments because I'd like to expand on the 3 comments I made at the regional meeting. I didn't expand at the time because I wanted to make sure, I didn't want to get into that kind of detail. My first comment at the regional meeting was, my comment was to delay the concept. Now, to me, is not the time to go into regional transit. There's a paradigm shift that's happened, that's occurred. For example, my sister, as I mentioned, worked in Toronto. As of March of last year, she's not gone back to her 9-story office building, neither has the staff. And the same has occurred in the US cities where my son-in-law works. They've not gone back to the office. So basically, there's been a great shift as to who's traveling and who's using transit. The other thing that's shifting is even around here. On my street, for instance, I took a survey. We've got 13 homes with 36 residents. Of those residents, there's a total of 36 people that live here. Of those people, 13 used to go to work. Right at this present time, 4 of those 36 are actually going back into work. So it's a huge shift of what's happened. And I don't think it's going to be over in the next year or 2 years. So that's the first basis of delaying the concept. The second basis is the growth from the Niagara region. I was at the Brock webinar yesterday, and the director of planning was talking about the 2016 to 41, 25% increase of population in the Niagara region, basically going from 450,000 to 610,000 residents. And the question was asked, where are the residents coming from? And from me, the answer he gave probably was accurate in the fact that he's saying Canada isn't going to increase immigration. Immigration is going to come to the big cities like Toronto, and Toronto is going to move out to the Golden Horseshoe. So I don't think the people that are moving here are looking for transit. They're looking for the lifestyle that we have. So that's my first point. My second point was the cost. I don't think the assessment value works for Pelham. Going from 2.6 million to 1.26 million in 2029 just is not fair to the Pelham taxpayer. But let's talk about the other big transit boys, the 3, which are Niagara Falls, Welland, and St. Catharines. I took a look at all their budgets in detail. The St. Catharines transit budget, for instance, this coming year for 21 was 5.51%. That percentage was only held because they got a $1.2 million safe start from the government of Ontario. Plus, they took $884,000 from their revenues to keep it at 5.51%. That's a huge number. Let's take a look at what Welland's doing. They're keeping their transit running full blast, just like they were before the pandemic. They're not decreasing anything. Niagara Falls, I reviewed theirs. They're buying eight more buses. Do we want to join those kind of transit commissions? And the third point, which is the biggest one, is the big 3 effect. The question I have is, do these guys really care about the smaller utilities? If I belong to one of those 3 big municipalities, I'd be signing on 100% to this commission. Why? Because then we'd be helping to support their transit commission. But what really bothered me the most about the big 3 is the fact that during the pandemic, they were not following the same rules as far as I saw it as we were. My grandson, who works in the hospitality industry part-time as a student, was feeding me all the information of what was happening down there. While we, in November, were taking names and making sure that our arenas were safe and we weren't holding tournaments of out-of-town areas, we're not doing the same. The hospitality industry was not taking down names of any of the people going there. The Sheraton, for instance, was full up with residents from out of town. They have 800 rooms. They were full up between Christmas and New Year's. I approached 3 representatives that I have from the region to question the region as to why they were not following the same rules as the rest of us. And the answer I got is the region had no desire to get into the details. So I'm not so concerned that the region is very concerned about where we stand on transit, other than they want us to join their transit system. In general, I will not be supporting a regional transit commission. We can't afford it, and I don't think Pelham will ever be treated fairly by the region. Those are my comments.
Thank you. Does any, go ahead, Councillor Olson.
Yes, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. First of all, I would like to mention that Vicky has taken justifiable pride in the development of the transit. And I remember looking out the window of the MCC with her and seeing the transit bus out there, and they were arriving for a transfer from our local bus. But I don't know. I don't know that this is a supportable idea at all, because I took a look at and read the staff reports on transit in Calgary, Alberta, and specifically their Cochrane, Alberta run, which is more or less what we have in the current example of Innisfail, Ontario, which runs an entirely subsidized by the ride system with Uber. And looking at our situation, we have right now we're running at about 1.5 rides per service hour, and that's what we did with the bus as well as we do with our current on-demand system. The industry best practice for the system that we're running is 6, so we're running at 25% of what the best practice in the industry is. And looked at the fixed rate for transit, and that's the lowest possible rate I could find was 10 to 15 rides per service hour, and those rates were not financially feasible, and they had to be shut down. So we're somewhere in the very bottom end of demand for service, and probably at a level that's not financially justifiable. And then I found a letter dated from August 12th of last year, and Ontario Transportation Minister Carol Mulroney has suggested that cities have to evaluate their low-performing bus routes and think about replacing them with micro-transit systems. Now, that suggests to me that if we were to come up with a system based on Uber, it would be certainly justifiable with the proviso that we also recognize the fact if we're going to be subsidizing Uber, if the rides go up, the cost is going to go up, and that might become the imperative. And that's exactly what happened in Innisfail. The rides doubled when they subsidized the rate down to $3 a ride, and with one special stop off at the GO Transit in Innisfail. So very similar situations, and the fixed route bus thing is not tenable for us. We're about 10% of what we need, the ridership we need, and we're about 25% of the ridership we need for the on-demand transit. I think what Councillor Hildebrand said is quite true, but I think what happens is the cities of Welland, Niagara Falls, and St. Catharines are trying to address their legitimate social needs and social inequities through their fare system and through their bus systems, and they're offering free transit and all sorts of things. And I think we'll end up bearing the cost, and the fact that it's based upon housing values means that we have a desirable place to live. We don't have the social issues, at least the visible social issues as other places, but we're going to end up paying for everybody else's. So for all those reasons, I'm going to vote against the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Anyone else have comments or questions? Councillor Wink?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Just a few comments I'd like to make. Firstly, I agree wholeheartedly that the financial situation that they're presenting us with a roughly 500% increase is not sufficient. Our ridership is far lower than everyone else has pointed out to Councillor Olson, and we would be essentially subsidizing everyone else. We do have to look forward a little bit and look at, there will be more demand for public transit as more and more people occupy townhouses and apartment buildings and whatever going forward. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we are going to grow. We're not going to be people. Yeah, we're going to get people in the $1 million homes, but we're going to be getting people in 1,100 or 1,200 square foot townhouses or apartment buildings and whatever that will require public transit of some sort. The way the proposal is right now, a 500% increase is not workable. I would never support something like that, but perhaps there's something that we can go back and say, all right, we're prepared, but it's going to be at a far lower level. And if they're not agreeable to that, we're not going to play. The other concern I have is similar to what Councillor Hildebrand was saying, is that Welland, St. Catharines, Niagara Falls are basically going to be controlling a large portion of the board. We have very little say, particularly we might have representation once every 10 years, which if we agree to it, we're at the fate of everyone else, which I don't agree with. They have to come up with a better way of allowing representation. There was something in the proposal that said perhaps we can look at West Niagara, but then that's still 4 municipalities. Even if you do it every 2 years, we only have 2 years out of 8 years that were adequately represented. So I agree with that. We have to come up with some type of way of providing public transit. I'm not sure if what's being presented. I would say that the region has to sharpen their pencil and sharpen it hard, because it's not sustainable at 500%. And if they insist upon the 500% increase, like, I'm not in favor of this motion either.
Thank you, Councillor Wink. Any further comments? Okay, well then I will put my comments in. I will not support this, as it is solely to the benefit of St. Catharines, Welland, and Niagara Falls in keeping their costs down. And the smaller municipalities will be subsidizing them. We would, again, have far too little representation. When transit first came up with our new council, I did mention the transit plan in Innisfil, and Councillor Olson has brought that back to the forefront. And my thoughts are on it that if it's working for them and it's gotten to the point where it's busy enough that it's costing too much money, I think that would be the time to, put back in our former, bus system that we had. And I also don't have confidence that in the region, because they're saying that the transit hours will be maintained for 5 years. And So what happens after the 5 years? They're certainly going to reevaluate it, and the underperforming ones that, you know, who's to say that they will continue at that level or they'll start cutting it back. So I will not support this. Do we have further questions, comments? Oh, Councillor Olson? Oh, you're muted.
Not again, sorry. through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, the ridership in Innisfail actually doubled when they went to an Uber model. But I have a proposal for council to consider and the CAO to consider. The Uber model seems to apply for a number of different places, such as Waynfleet, West Lincoln, and perhaps you could, when you're talking to your fellow CAOs, perhaps we could propose something of a combined Uber system, perhaps subsidized by the town for those areas that are underserved, and I would include, let me see, perhaps even Niagara on the Lake and Waynfleet, West Lincoln. And I meant to say Grimsby as well.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Further, go ahead, Councillor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I agree with Councillor Olson. I've looked at Uber's pricing structure right now. Right now, if I compare their price for a ride, their price for me to go to Pelham Cares is $16. Right now, I'm paying over $100 for that same ride through the regional transit system. So obviously it's almost the same number going forward. Lyft right now is not operating this area. The driver that I took when I did the Niagara Regional Transit System rides, I did 5 experimental rides just to see how the system ran. And the driver I've got, they were guys who came over from Uber, because I guess Niagara Regional Transit, because of the $3 fares, is taking some of the Uber rides away. So that's where that occurred. But I agree also with Councillor Wink that in the interim, until the region gets themselves sorted out, we need to provide some kind of system. And I'm telling you, I rated the system that the recreational director had as a 10 in comparison to the way the system from the Niagara Regional Transit is running. Because the Niagara Regional Transit, when I tried to phone them on the phone, it took me 28 minutes to get someone on the phone. And it took them another 32 minutes to get the system working out for my smartphone. And that doesn't include, that's me having a smartphone. For the people that don't have a smartphone, this NRT is just, in my terms, is a disaster. Now, the region gave me a special number to call because they found out who I was and that I wasn't happy. So I don't expect the regular residents to get that kind of treatment. That's just my comments with the Niagara regional system right now. So I am agreeing with Councillor Olson and Councillor Wink that in the interim, I think there's opportunities for us to investigate something before the end of October or when the system runs out.
Mr. CAO.
Thank you. So items, food for thought items for council. We've very recently received correspondence, I'm hoping Vicky can help me out here, from the region indicating that year 2 of the renewal is of the experimental renewal. Not sure what the how to phrase that exactly, but we're right now in a pilot project with the region providing the service. And of course, because of COVID and really inadequate data, et cetera, that's being extended throughout the Niagara region. So council, we have the opportunity to carry on for another year with someone else providing a transit service while we sort out whatever it is you're going to land on. So that could be one of the things you pass motion or give direction to staff on today. But certainly, if we say yes, then we ensure that there's a transit system, albeit imperfect, for our residents for another year. Vicki, I don't know if you have any more details than that, but.
Yeah, so through you, Deputy Mayor, we are currently in a pilot project with the region, and it's from August to August. We have been invited to a meeting with regard to extending it an additional year and continuing on. So with the exact same service as what we have. We do not know the cost as yet. Right now, maybe Teresa, but I believe it's $178,000
right. Yeah.
that we're paying this year. And I am thinking, well, anyhow, we haven't been told the addition next year what it would cost if we extended it.
So because as some amount of clarity, we're hearing certainly some creative and alternative different approaches, but we're talking about a gargantuan amount of work to try to figure out any other alternative. And certainly there's a capacity for, we don't think, more money to simply extend what residents currently have for a year, which is time we would need to look at some sort of alternative if that becomes the will of council. Is that fair? Sven Ravenswood? Yeah. I see Ms. Quinlan has her hand up.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. With regards to the finances, so currently in the pilot project, as we mentioned, the cost of the contracted services by the region is $178,700. If we were to run the two buses ourselves, we had budgeted in the 2020 budget over $400,000 for that service. So I think it makes sense. I definitely agree with the CAO that it would buy us some time to stay with the existing pilot project until we sort things out. Because right now, if we don't stay with them, we would have to go out for procurement with new bus services because we don't have a contract with Sharp or with whoever anymore.
Thank you. Councillor Hildebrand?
Very good, Deputy Mayor. The question I have is, if we agree to go with the region for another year, are we signing on to agree with the commission model? That's the concern. If we can sign on with another year, I could be in favor, but signing on with the commission, to me, is an absolute no.
Director of Recreation?
Okay, so maybe we could take this one piece at a time. So the region is asking us, do we endorse a full commission model as they have presented? So that's one aspect that council needs to come up with. And if you do endorse it, then you endorse it. And if you don't endorse it, then we need to say why. Obviously the region is presenting that they would continue with the current level of service that they're providing for us in this proposal. Are we happy with this current level of service? And if we are, great. If we feel that we need some improvements, we need to state that. And also we need to state how we feel about the financial portion that they're proposing. So there are three basically basic items that we need to answer the region on.
Thank you. Further comments, Councillor Hildebrand?
Let me comment from what I've heard and from my experience with Niagara Regional Transit at present. I did use the system experimentally 5 times. Like I told you, first of all, I registered. There was a problem with the registration. I tried to go back into the register again because it threw me out. My password wouldn't work. So then I had to call. I waited 28 minutes. When I called, the person who answered it, I'm not sure that it was a regional representative because they were hard to understand. It took them over 5 minutes to get my account up on the system. And from there on, it took the rest of the hour to sort out my account. And that's me with a smartphone. That's me knowing what I'm doing. The poor residents, the other thing with the system is it doesn't accurately it has to take your reference from your iPhone as to exactly where you are. That is not working properly on your iPhone because when I walked one time from the MCC and it doesn't even give the right MCC address. I walked over to Food Basics to see whether it would pick up a new address. It wouldn't. The one time I went straight to the Food Basics on the plan and I booked the thing and I could see where the driver was. The driver took 19 minutes to get to me. He was near Sobeys and he said the smartphone was telling him I was at Sobeys, and yet the address I was shown showed Food Basics. I asked what was going on, and the region-based information I got from them is we're the second municipality that's trying this system. They're working out the issues. So obviously, I think there's a lot of issues with the software. So I'm not sure where that's going or who's taking care of those issues. But that's the issues that I found, because I've heard of people being stranded with regular phones. If you've got a regular phone, you've got to call in. I've heard of people being stranded at Pelham Cares. I've heard of people being stranded at Food Basics. And when I was talking to the driver on my Niagara Regional Transit, they were saying people have been waiting an hour for rides because they just have a phone and these older people just have a regular cell phone. They don't have a smartphone. If you don't have a smartphone, that system is hard to operate because you got to get someone on the phone to answer it. So those are my comments with regards to Niagara Regional Transit right now.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions? Oh, Councillor Olson?
Yes, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Looking at the recent report we had for December 31st, it appears to me that there was, looks like there was 1,472 rides total rides, and of the originating rides, there were 1,121 originated in Pelham, and the destination was 1,076. And there were a certain number. There was the high time was 4 o'clock till 7 o'clock, and then things dropped off. And we don't provide service on the weekends, I don't think, which would be supplied by Uber if we were to use something of that model. And then there's a tremendous level of satisfaction. It looks like it's 5 being the highest number. It looks to me like 500 or. I guess it's something less than 500 of the riders said that they got excellent service. But I have heard the same kind of stories, and I know about the Pelham Cares issue with people wanting to getting a ride in, and then they can't take their groceries with them. So why would you bother? Why would you bother going into Pelham Cares to pick up your groceries if you can't pick up your groceries? So that type of thing has certainly happened. And then there's the notion that it was used by students. Well, there's really, when you look at the number of total percentage of riders that were students from Pelham going to Brock University and going to Niagara College, it was 1.3%. 1.3% of the total riders were going to 1.1 to Brock and 1.6 to Niagara. So it's really not proving to be that useful a service for the people we thought would be useful for. And looking at the number of people who don't have access to a cell phone, I believe the survey was 4% of the total number of people don't have access to smartphones so they can access the system. I thought it was going to be bigger than that. But at this time, right now, we're spending at a rate of $52 a ride for people to go anywhere in Pelham, basically $52 a ride, and I find that hard to justify to people. Also find it very difficult to justify if you look at what's being proposed. The larger systems have a very inefficient cost structure. It costs in Niagara Falls, it costs $131 an hour to run a bus. In St. Catharines, it's $142 an hour to run a bus. And in Welland, because it's shared with Port Colborne, it's $74 an hour. Our rate was $82 an hour when we ran the fixed route buses. And now, after this is finished, it all becomes even, and the most efficient by the hour becomes Niagara Falls, St. Catharines, and Welland. Their costs go down under $50 an hour, and ours goes up to $231 an hour after you get done with that. So it doesn't make sense to operate something like that.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Mr. Cribbs, you had your hand up?
Well, I don't want to get involved in the debate, but we should point out that we know when we operated the transit system that we do have heavy student usage. With all due respect, both Niagara College and Brock are shut down and not offering classes. And so I'm surprised there's even 1% of people going to closed buildings where they're unwelcome to be. That's not an effective or appropriate measure for the efficacy of that part of the system. We know this because when we operate the system, if you look out the MCC, you will see a dozen students. At any rate, I'd really like to support council in looking at the 4 areas that the region's hoping for your commentary on. I think that would help us go forward. Maybe you want to start with like the governance model and work your way down to money, or start with money and work up to governance, as you feel about
Madam Deputy Mayor, and he doesn't want to become devolved in the debate. These numbers were from 2018 and 2019. Direct from Niagara region, what the numbers were. So that was before pandemic, as far as I know.
Well, Councillor Olson, I mean, if you stood at the MCC, you'd have seen plenty of people getting on buses.
The source is Students on the Move survey done by Niagara Region and Brock University, and written and presented by Niagara Region. I stand by my source.
Thank you, Councillor Olson. Further comments? Director of Recreation?
Don't want to get into the debate.
Okay.
Okay.
I
just want to just say something. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're reading from, Councillor Olson, it's probably true what you're reading, although we just need to take into account in 2018, the regional bus, if that's the region, came here 2 hours out of the day, from 9 to 10 was a pickup, and at 3 o'clock, I believe, was a pickup. In between there, we would have to get the stats from the Pelham buses, because every hour we went to Welland. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Okay, can we now move forward to going through the 4 items that the region wants us to comment on?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure if I have that handy here, so
Madam Deputy Mayor, you might find it helpful if you use sort of the structure of some of the report, because we go through the four items. Start the governance model. They endorse.
Okay, there it is.
For instance, a full commission model as opposed to the other ones, and perhaps you or other members of council have some thoughts on that.
Okay, well, then let's start with the full commission model. Comments and questions? Councillor Hildebrandt?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I think I've made it totally clear. I'm not in favor of the full commission model.
Further comments, questions? Are we able to take a vote on each one of these things and then move from there?
Through you.
I think Director of Recreation commented that there was 3 items that they wanted us to comment on: full commission, financial, and service.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. We do have a motion that is on the floor to receive the report for information right now. That would need to be disposed of prior to making a new motion, but certainly voting on this would then open the floor for any more new motions, and you could have an individual motion on each 3 items if that is the wish of council.
Okay, so it would be simply to receive the report and not to be accepting of what they're offering. Right?
That's correct. I can read the motion back into the record just for clarity of council.
Thank you.
As the motion reads, it is be it resolved that council receive report 2021-0044, consideration for service provision arising from Region of Niagara's Transit Governance Report for information.
Okay, thank you.
Would council like me to go ahead and call for the vote?
Yes, please. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hildebrandt.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to make sure when we're receiving that report for information, we're not asking for or not approving any contents of that report. I just want to make that absolutely clear.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, the report did not include a recommendation. Rather, the resolution attached is to receive for information. Once this motion has been voted on, it would open the floor for council to then make a new motion on each of the individual components that Ms. Van Ravensway is looking for. If that provides clarity.
Thank you. Okay, can we call the vote, please?
Thank you. For the vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Olson.
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, I asked a number of questions, and they were kind of key questions at the meeting when this was presented, such as ridership per hour, and that's kind of the measurement that most transit authorities use to measure their effectiveness, and I did not get an answer. Secondly, the diagram that was presented to us at that meeting was an on-demand system, and the one that's been provided, the costs that were provided were for a fixed route 2-bus system. So I'm still confused about the financial arrangement, so I'll be voting no.
Thank you. Councillor Wink.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, all that we're being asked for is to receive the report. We're not accepting the report. We're not saying we agree with it or whatever. All that we're voting on is, here's the report. We received it.
Thank you. Director of Recreation, please.
Yes, the report that you have received it, and you're also receiving the resolution that they want you to comment on. So in that resolution, they're asking for your support or not support of a full commission, or you do support a concept on the commission of a full commission, although you want these changes or considered. No different than the funding model. The funding model, you may want to amend it and make your suggestions. With regard to the levels of service, I'm hearing that you would like maybe improvements of the current level of service that they are offering through this proposal.
Thank you. Councillor Hildebrand.
Through you, Madam Deputy Chair. I have the same concern as Councillor Olson. I'm not convinced I've got all the data, and I will not be approving it as well.
Thank you. Ms. Bizzotto, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to point out that the motion before council at this moment is, as explained by our Deputy Clerk, be it resolved the council receive report 2021-0044. That's the report by the Director of Recreation, Culture and Wellness. And to receive that report only for information. Then council would be able to provide a separate motion for each of the components that the region is looking for answers on. Those motions could be put from the floor, and then they are subject to amendment and debate so that we can provide the region with the town of Pelham's position in line with their requested deadlines. I'm just giving that information to help you with procedure.
Okay, thank you for clarification. Deputy Clerk, can we call the vote now, please? Just on the motion to receive.
That would be correct. It would just be to receive this report for information, and the vote would begin with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
No.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrand.
No.
Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries. The floor is now open, and you can continue your debate.
Okay, I guess the first item would be on the full commission model, where we would have very limited representation. And does anyone want to comment on that?
If I can be helpful,
yes, please.
You might consider are suggesting duration of terms so that maybe there'd be 1 or 2 year terms rather than 4-year terms to speed up the rate at which Pelham might have representation. Alternatively, you might consider rotating a seat reserved for municipalities with a population under 25,000. Or by geographic representation, and or recommend that they increase the size of the commission itself so that there could be a permanent seat for municipalities of our approximate size. Any of the foregoing would possibly give us something closer to a consistent voice.
Thank you. I'm lost. Oh, sorry. Councillor Olson?
Yes, through you, Madam Deputy Mayor. I guess I'm looking at the ridership numbers, and there's, in round numbers, there's 8 million riders on all of the systems together combined. Niagara Falls is 26%, St. Catharines is 60%, and Welland is 9%. That's 95% of the riders are coming from those three places. Now, why on earth would we really expect to have very much say in this whole system? We count for less than 1%, and it's a bad deal for them. And we'll never have anything to say about about our own transit in any system that we pick. So I'm going to vote against the commission model myself. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kaur?
Yes, I will be supporting Councillor Olson on that. It just doesn't make sense that we think that we're going to have any input when the big three players have control.
Councillor Hildebrandt?
Through you, Madam Chair, I also will be supporting Councillor Olson. There's no way I'll be accepting any commission from the region, giving them the authority to run Pelham Transit.
Thank you. Councillor Wink, do you have a comment?
Yes. So are we then saying we're not in support of the full commission? We don't like the representation at all, and we're just flat out turning it down. Is that right? Just to be clear.
Oh. Mr. CAO?
For clarity, that wouldn't, all you'd be saying is you don't like a full commission. As you'll recall from the presentation, I mean, this is 8 years of work, admittedly not by town staff, but 8 years of work by people. And they've looked at it being a direct service from the regions, i.e. regional staff, directly on regional payroll as a division of the region of Niagara providing the service. They looked at a partial commission, partially arm's length, and they looked at a full commission, fully at arm's length. So they are hoping for some constructive feedback.
Thank you. Councillor Kaur?
Just through you, Mr. Mayor, to the CEO. How many representatives of Pelham were on that decision-making process of 8 years?
Sir, I've been here for a year and a half. To my knowledge, none directly, although there was a transit consultation group, and Ms. Van Ravensway has been part of that for some years. She can shed more direct light, but I don't think any Pelham elected official has been directly involved.
So point taken.
Council.
Thank you. Councillor Kaur?
Can we have the vote?
We would need a motion, I think.
Yes, I would be looking for a mover and a seconder, and I would like to know what the motion into the record would be. It could be, not putting words in council's mouth, but it could be something along the lines of, be it resolved that council endorse a full commission model or not, or something of that nature. I would need to have that from council, from a mover and seconder. Unless Mr. CAO has further commentary on what he would be looking for.
It strikes me that the concerns voiced by council suggest that, in fact, you would not be supportive of a full commission model. If you want to ensure that some Pelham elected officials continuously have input, then it goes to follow that you would want the service provided by the region directly, because we have two regional, we have the head of council and a regional representative. So there are two people at Niagara Region Council who represent the interests of this community.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to be clear. So as we vote on these three issues to give to, our answer to the region, I want to be sure that by doing this, we're not just automatically accepting that we want to participate in the regional transit, because no matter how it happens or how it works, the region gets its money from the municipalities. So no matter how it goes, we will be paying for it.
My response is, and we can add some clarification to our motion, but as the delegations tried to convey, at the moment they're seeking feedback from every municipality in Niagara. This feedback isn't going to lead to the penultimate vote on the future of transit in Niagara. that penultimate vote will be one of the triple majority votes. And so that's a very different kettle of fish. Right now, they're seeking your thoughts on, this is what they think is the best model, and they're seeking your thoughts on that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Wink?
For you, Deputy Mayor. So then really, with respect to the board representation, the feedback that we're going to get back to them is we don't like this because we have extremely limited say in the governance of this, and really, you know, even if we rotate with West Niagara once every year, really a board person isn't effective on a board every year. So even if it's, we have representation 2 years out of 8, it's still, there's a lot of things that can happen in those other 6 years that we don't have a say. So the representation that's, we don't have a voice at the table on a regular basis. I think that's where we're going with this. You know, that we need consistent representation on a regular basis.
Thank you. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion, Councillor Wink?
Councillor Hildebrand had a hand up.
Okay, Councillor Hildebrand?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I'd just like to make the comment. I've talked to another municipality, and basically they've also rejected the full commission model. And at this point, we have 2 representatives at the region. That's better than any representation we're presently going to be offered at the full commission model. So I'm prepared to stay with my 2 regional representatives who are there on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, giving me representation.
Okay, thank you. Would you like to put that in the form of a motion? Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, so I would think that the motion is we don't support the full commission model for the reasons that I said, and then for the reasons that Councillor Hildebrand said. Thus, that's providing them the feedback that they're looking for.
Okay, thank you. Oh, Deputy, Ms. Bizzotto, please.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Deputy, I could share my screen with members of council. I have started a motion that might be helpful to get the wording sufficient for you, if that's acceptable.
Yes, that would be very helpful. Thank you.
So members of council, can you see that, can you see that second page here where it says motion?
Yes.
That the town of Pelham does not support the full transit commission model as presented by the region of Niagara in report LNTC C04-2020, as the town of Pelham will not be sufficiently represented on the commission board as it pertains to governance of the commission. And was there a further statement that Councillor Hildebrand wished to include? Councillor Hildebrand, you're muted, Councillor Hildebrand. Councillor Hildebrand, you're on mute.
I'm fine with this motion as presented.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a seconder?
Perfect.
Madam Deputy Mayor, I'm not sure if you can see, but I did see Councillor Hildebrand's hand raised. Thank you.
Yes, we got that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. For the vote, if there's no other further discussion on this, Then I would start the vote with Councillor Olson,
Yes.
Councillor Wink,
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt,
Yes.
Councillor Kaur,
Yes.
and then Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. Therefore, that motion would carry.
Thank you for your help. On to the next. Okay, so I guess the next one would be the service. Do we have comments, questions on the level of service and what we can expect? Ms. Van Ravensway?
So I just want to remind council that this proposal is proposing the continuation of the on-demand service that we are receiving now. Just to keep that in mind, and the level of service that we're getting. So if there's any comments about that, now's the time, I guess.
Okay, thank you. I saw Councillor Olson first.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, how many, they refer to 2021 transit hours. Does that include, what are those hours in fact? Are they something in approaching 2,000 hours, or I don't know how to figure that one out. Do we know how many hours there are? And does it include Saturdays and Sundays, or is there any deviation from that?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Van Ravensway?
Yes, I would say that it's the current service, which is Monday to Saturday. It includes Saturday service.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Wing?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I have an issue with the fact of us extending the service, and I'm all for extending the service just because we don't have enough time to research and implement an alternative. But if we're saying, yeah, we're going to go ahead with what we've got for another year, we don't know what the cost is. So they could be coming back to us and saying, well, yeah, we're going to extend it, but it's going to be 3 times the cost. And that part, I have difficulty. Yes, I would like to extend it, but at what cost? So I'm not even sure if we're ready to make that recommendation at this point in time.
Mr. CAO?
Probably a fair and reasonable motion or direction by you is to direct town staff to enter into those conversation and negotiation with regional staff, and then return back to you with more information so that we can at least understand if there are any negative implications to extending for the second year.
And at the same time, addressing service issues.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so what you're suggesting is not the service plan, like ongoing after the year. We're talking about just the 1-year extension at this point.
I believe so, and I actually think you should include that maybe not deal with that right now and have that as a post note, the final motion you passed this evening, because that's really one aimed at town staff, whereas the rest of this motion is really you communicating with the region rather than say town staff.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So Councillor Olson?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, does this include such things as a return on funds that we have to give back to the region, the startup funds and those types of things, and the Canada Infrastructure Program, those funds that we donate back, or I shouldn't say donate, but transfer back to the region as part of our share of maintaining this program?
Ms. Quinlan?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Olson, are you referring to the transit gas tax?
That's correct. That's part of it, yes.
Yeah, so that's part of the model that they get that.
Okay.
So my understanding and what we have in the 2021 budget is that the service would be the same as what the cost would be the same as what we have right now, the 178,700. So that's my understanding, but that's something we have to verify along with the gas tax. Yeah.
Thank you. Further comments, questions?
So if we're leave that to, sorry, if we're going to leave that to the end and make more or less direction to staff, then let's deal with, is it appropriate to deal with the dollars that were being asked? So let's kind of frame a motion around that and address our concerns with respect to the dollars so we can provide proper feedback to the region.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wink. Councillor Hildebrand?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. I just want to make absolutely sure that we've clarified. We're talking about inter-municipal transit and intra-municipal transit. Now, to me, the regional bus coming in is a service we should have always gotten. We were always paying for that. That's not an extra. What we're talking now is the region coming in and doing inter-municipal transit. To the Director of Recreation, is that correct?
Sorry. Through you, Deputy Mayor. No, what we're talking is the service that they are providing right now, the on-demand service that we're providing right now is included in this proposal. The exact on-demand service. They are stating that in the future, they may extend it to Sundays to include Sundays. Although with the financial impact, you have the graph in the report that states the costs that they believe it will cost over the next 8 years.
Thank you.
So just to go on, so what they're providing right now is anyone can call and get a ride anywhere in town. And then also they're providing, if I need to go to Grimsby, I'm able to get to Grimsby from Pelham or to Welland or to St. Catharines. It's a service that they're providing right now.
Thank you. Councillor Hildebrand?
Just to be absolutely clear, I found out from using the system, when you go to Welland, you can only go to the Welland bus station. That's where they take you. They don't take you anywhere else in Welland.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Van Ravensway?
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. That is correct. They will take you to the closest terminal so that you can take the links to get to where you need to go. It's not like a taxi service where they'll pick you up and take you. They will take you to the next connection.
Thank you. Councillor Olson?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Vicky. Do we have any idea what the ridership is on that bus that stops at the MCC? Do we have any ridership figures on that?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, that bus is no longer. We have changed to the system that we have now with the on-demand system.
Thank you. Oh, Councillor Wink?
Okay, so I'll try and get the ball rolling down the field again. So the regional levy, so somehow in the motion that the regional levy is not acceptable, it being based on MPAC assessment. It doesn't take into consideration population size or existing ridership of our community. There needs to be a hard cap because we're looking at a 500% increase to Pelham, and that is definitely not workable. And in addition to all of this, there's no commitment as far as servicing it in Pelham in the future.
Thank you.
Can we work with that?
I think so. I think so. Can we have, does anyone have further discussion on what Councillor Wink is proposing?
Through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, I would be looking for a seconder on that motion.
Okay. Councillor Court?
Thank you, and I do see that Ms. Bizzotto has shared her screen so that council can see the language.
How about which does not take into consideration population size? We'll give it more affirmative language.
Is it 555% increase or?
It's about increase.
That'll work.
Thank you. Is there further discussion on the motion, or can we call a vote? Seeing no discussion, can we call a vote, please?
Thank you. This vote will begin with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yeah, yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you. So I guess the next is to direct staff to engage with the Niagara Region Transit Committee, or whatever the actual title is, to find out what the cost would be going forward to extend for a second year, as they've not made that clear to us so far. Does anyone have anything to add to that? Councillor Hildebrandt?
Yes, I'd like to add to that they add a quicker response to the calls into the service for the residents, because those are the people that need the help.
Thank you. See, where are we now? Okay, so we're pretty much at the end of February and it runs August to August. So what would be a reasonable time frame in order for staff to be able to get back to us? Because I know you'll be negotiating with the region, so it just depends on how quickly you can deal with them.
Well, council, I would submit to you, there's a council meeting on, God help me, I think it's April 1st. So insert a note there. But I'm being serious at the moment. And at a minimum, I think we should bring you an update report at that point in time, whether or not the task is done, so that you can have some information.
Okay, thank you.
Through the Madam Deputy Mayor, our first April meeting, I believe, would be for April 6th.
Is it? Well, that's so much better.
I am looking
through.
I am looking at our eScribe meeting listing, and it appears that the next meeting in April is April 6th. I think it's due to the holiday because of Easter.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Okay. I'm thrilled to be wrong about that.
Yeah, the first is a Thursday. Okay, it says results. Maybe we can amend results to update with an update by the regular council meeting. Okay. Okay, can we have someone to move this motion?
So, sorry, Deputy Mayor, just some wordsmithing. The second paragraph and that details be negotiated as it relates to extending.
Oh, okay, right, relates to, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so now you fixed it. Would you like to move that motion, Councillor Wink?
Sure, I've done them all so far, so.
And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Olsen. Okay, can we call a vote, please?
Yes, thank you. For the vote?
Oh, wait, Councillor Olsen, sorry.
Yes, through you, Deputy Mayor. Just a question for the treasurer. The funding that we received, that we got money for 2020. 2021 is very likely to come with more conditions. Will that be available shortly, or will we know what that's going to be? Because the indications are from the federal and provincial government that there are going to be conditions attached.
So through you, Madam Deputy Mayor, with regards to the gas tax, so for 2020, we are receiving the gas tax from April 1st until August 16th, 2020. And then on August 17th, the region takes it over. So we're going to be receiving about $53,000 relating to that period. And then for the 2021 year, we won't receive anything for the gas tax because it goes to the region. But we are receiving, we still receive the $100,000 for the community transit grant. So we still, that's a 5-year grant. So that money we still will be receiving in 2021.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we call the vote, please?
Thank you. The vote will begin with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olsen.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
And that motion passes. Thank you. I'm not sure if there was other conversation or debate that council wanted to have, or if they wanted to move on. I'm not sure if staff is looking for further direction.
Would you like to comment, Mr. Cribbs?
No, this is I think you've hit on the major points the region wanted to hear from. Your town staff are always happy to take any direction you see fit to give us. But walking away from this, we have a clear motion to send on to the region to understand the town's formal position. Ms. Van Ravensway, Ms. Quinlan, and I think clearly understand that we're to engage with regional staff about the next year extension, to make some submissions and to take a position where we're looking to improve the service as part of that, and to understand what, if any, financial difference there would be during the extension, and then to report that back to you. So I feel like you've hit off all the high notes. If there's anything else you'd like us to do or consider or to work on or look at, though, this is an appropriate time for such a motion.
Thank you. Any further comments? Councillor Olson?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I don't predict success with this, so I would like to see some kind of a study on the Uber model based on the Innisfail model. There's plenty of staff reports and plenty of different things, because we still need to have transit. There are still people that require this, and I would like to see some sort of report, preliminary report or preliminary business plan for doing that.
Would you like to make a motion to have a staff direction?
Yes, I would move that staff be directed to prepare a staff report based upon alternative models for on-demand alternative models for the town of Pelham. Should the current discussions with the Niagara region fail?
Thank you.
So my question would be then, what type of time frame are we giving staff to come back to us? And the other caveat to that is to the CAO, when is the triple majority vote going to happen? So I would say, let's not do the work until we find out the triple majority vote, and then see what happens there, because no matter what we say, we may be stuck with this.
So my first answer is, I don't think anyone, including anyone at the region, knows when the triple majority vote, the penultimate vote, will occur. They're working towards a future, and it's a foreseeable event, but as far as a specific date, certainly I don't know, but my sense is no one does. We are not the last municipality to my knowledge, to provide the feedback to the region, but we're towards the tail end now. So I imagine they're going to take all of that, aggregate it, and present it to regional council with some staff commentary and a report that should be quite interesting to us. And that's probably something that can happen much later this year. To be abundantly clear, council, the triple majority vote would, Ms. Sturton wrote that component of the report, but the staff report you've received earlier. But in essence, if enough municipalities that represent enough population of Niagara vote to make this happen, then it will happen over our objection, should we be objecting. So we may not have control over our destiny in that regard. To the point as to when we should do the work, I do believe we're going to successfully renegotiate an extension. Pragmatically, the reality is we really sort of need to extend, and we haven't been given any indicia that it's going to be on different monetary terms. We don't really have a year of appropriate data because it's been almost entirely during COVID. This past, August to August term is COVID. So we really don't know what sort of the real ridership is. And I think it's very hard for anyone to make good decisions without good data. So I suspect we'll succeed we may not succeed in negotiating the service enhancement, although we'll try, but I suspect we will succeed in extending the service for another year. At any rate, maybe this is something for us all to turn our minds to. And if we're going to report back to you on April 6th, that would be a good time then to possibly, for Councillor Olson's motion for us to consider it at that time, because we should be able to say something more to you then.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson, would that be an acceptable amendment for you?
Yeah, that would be fine. I specifically requested something that looked like preliminary business plan. I don't expect a detailed thing, but are there possibilities, because we can't leave people without an alternative or even the prospect of alternative, because this looks pretty stark to me. You spend $175,000 on transit, or you spend $1.2 million on transit every year. That's quite a distance.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you. Councillor Kaur?
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO. What does a triple play look like? Would it be St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Welland? Would that give them their triple play?
No, it's inadequate to just have the big cities. So 2/3, they need a couple of the sort of mid-sized municipalities. The 3 cities alone can't get a triple. They do have the population, I believe, to hit more than 66%, more than 2/3, but they themselves are 3 out of 11. So there need to be multiple sort of smaller to mid-sized municipalities in agreement to hit that triple majority.
So through you, Madam Mayor, to the CEO. So if we throw in Thorold and Niagara-on-the-Lake, would they get to that point?
Well, Niagara-on-the-Lake essentially endorsed, with a couple of caveats, this proposal. So they've taken a fairly different tack than we have. I don't know what position Thorold's taken, but I do know they already have an integrated transit system with St. Catharines, and St. Catharines provides transit to Thorold. So I wouldn't want to guess that they'd be in opposition. But to your broader point, with enough other municipalities thinking akin to Pelham, then yes, it would make a triple majority impossible, sir.
So it's possibly it would be the north against the south, really.
Yes, sir.
Civil war.
Yeah. Can we secede?
The kind of gentler Niagara style civil war.
Yes. Thank you.
Or we could surrender to Niagara-on-the-Lake. Maybe that's what we could do.
Well, they've got a fort. We don't.
Yeah. they can defend. Okay. So Ms. Bizzotto, do you have something started for a motion on this, according to Councillor Olson?
No, that's being deferred.
Okay.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, I believe that Councillor Olson's motion is being deferred until April 6th, at which time he'll move that forward.
Right. Sorry, I lost track of that. Okay, so
if it hasn't been seconded, it could just not be seconded and brought then a first time. Then that might be, because based on more information, Councillor Olson might want to massage it in any number of ways, whatever those might be.
Okay.
We don't have a second on the motion.
No,
okay.
The easiest bet is just not to second and start afresh on April 6th.
Okay, thank you. Is that acceptable, Councillor Olson?
Yes, that's fine with me. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, thank you. So I guess that concludes what we've come here to discuss. So is there anything further?
Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. If there is no further discussion, we can move to item 5 of our agenda, which is the confirming bylaw. If that is what council wishes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Wink, seconded by Councillor Hildebrandt. Be it resolved that the following bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and passed, being a bylaw number 4311-2021, to adopt, ratify, and confirm the proceedings of Council of the Town of Pelham at its special meeting held on the 25th day of February 2021. And for the vote, I will start with Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
And that motion would carry. Council, it is 5:31, and I do have a motion put forth by Councillor Hildebrandt, seconded by Councillor Olson. Be it resolved that this special meeting of council be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for March 1st, 2021 at 5:30 p.m. If there's no discussion, the vote will start with Councillor Kaur.
Yes.
Councillor Olson.
Yes.
Councillor Wink.
Yes.
Councillor Hildebrandt.
Yes.
And Deputy Mayor Stewart.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion carries, and you can gavel out the meeting.
Thank you. Forgot the hammer again.
Goodbye, all.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.